Okay, hey, it's Romania Black. So we're on episode 23 of Yona of the Dawn, and I'll be honest, I've taken nearly a week since episode 22 because I am terrified of this episode. Oh my god. So Soo-won and Yona have met up. You know, we had the Battle of Ooohhh and the pirate battle, and everything went great. It was so inspirational and wonderful. And then what does the mangaka do? As soon as that battle's over, Yona runs into Soo-won. Of all times and of all places, and we don't know where Hawk is. We don't know where the dragons are. Oh my god! And she's by herself. Although the only thing I think of going into this is that Yona just took out Kumji, so girl can defend herself. But what are we gonna do? Oh my gosh, I've been so nervous about this episode. I was like, and I know everything's probably gonna be fine because we have all the manga volumes left to go to, but I'm just like, I'm like, this feels like a test to see if to see how her character has grown, because all I can think of is back from episode like 2 and 3 when she was so distraught and just wanted to get, Soo-won to not have betrayed her by killing her father, and now she's confronting him, and she's grown so much as a character. I'm like, I don't want her to regress. I want her to stay strong, but it's like, Yona, my girl, I don't know what's gonna happen. It's this episode, and next week is the end of the anime for now, and then we're gonna start the manga. So I said I was gonna read volumes 5 and 6 before watching this episode, and I did read volume 5. I did read volume 5, but this week has been so busy I haven't gotten a chance to read volume 6 yet. So I read volume 5, which was just covering right up to the point where they had met Jae-ha and were just about to decide to do something with Kumji, but has not talked about the events of the last episode. So I will definitely probably be reading volume 6 after this and see where volume 6 ends before deciding if I need to go to volume 7 or 8. Because in the manga, y'all were right. It's interesting. In the manga, volume 4 goes straight from meeting our boy Blue, and then into volume 5, it goes straight into meeting Jae-ha. So, and in the manga, it's pretty natural and it flows really well. But I would argue it works good both ways. I liked the way that the anime's done it, and I like the way that the manga does it. So I can see why the anime wanted to do the episodes with Soo-won going to the Earth Tribe before we met Jae-ha, because it kind of gets Soo-won in your mind, like you're thinking, oh, he was just visiting the Earth Tribe, and then when you see him pop up in the last episode, you're like, oh, he was there still, that's why he popped up. So it'll be curious to see in the manga how it works out, because I've not gotten to the point where he meets up with Gunti yet in the manga. So that's going to be interesting to see how that looks. And by the time I get to the next episode, will have read volume 6 and maybe volume 7, depending on the events of volume 6 and volume 7. And then I can get back with y'all and talk about it. But I'm not ready. Huckleberry's down here. I'm not ready. But we have 2 more episodes left, and I can't stall anymore. Like, I've taken a solid week off and watched other shows and I've been like, it's that I always get nervous whenever there's something like this about to happen. Whenever there's a cliffhanger and you know something is about to go down and it's just going to be anxiety inducing, I tend to hold back on those episodes. I tend to procrastinate on watching them because it's like it's dread. You don't want to jump in, but I can't hold back anymore. I need to watch this episode. So we'll see what happens, right? But yeah, we just got this episode in the next one, and then we're going to start the manga. So I'll talk about that at the end of the discussion, but God, let's not waste any more time. I'm so nervous. But we're just gonna do it. We're just gonna go with it, right? So let's find out, shall we? Cross our fingers, hope it all works out. We're gonna start episode 23 of Yona of the Dawn here in 3, 2, 1. And I'll see y'all on the other side. Well, so there's that whole business with Soo-won. Holy cow. Okay. There's so much setup. I am so glad I'm reading the manga. Y'all have no idea. Especially as soon as we got to these last couple episodes, I was like, I am so glad I'm reading the manga after this, because I couldn't just stop here. No, it makes me so sad that it's literally been like 7 years since this season came out. And some people were noting, they were like, there's been a lot of recent official art. I put on the Discord, there was like an official art pop up of all the dragons and Hawk and Yona in like really pretty robes. And it was like an exhibition gallery that had popped up. So I'm like, okay, well maybe if there's some press then they're thinking about maybe animating a season 2. It's only been 7 years. That would be awesome. I'm still going to go ahead and start reading the manga because you just never know with stuff like this. It may just be a promotional thing and they're not going to carry on with it, which sucks because I love this series and the anime is so good. But I'm definitely going to be reading the manga because I can't stop now. Not after this setup, because there's a lot of setup in this episode. Lots of things. But God, Soo-won, what a mysterious character. Now I'm like, okay, what do you have left to, what is your mission then? What is going on? So we need to go back to this episode because, gosh, I was really happy with how, I was really nervous what was going to happen with Soo-won and Yona, and it took up a lot less of the episode than I thought. So I'm curious how the manga frames this. Very serious. But yeah, Yona and Soo-won seeing each other. And then, we cut back. And we cut back to the beginning where Soo-won killed King Il. And he's like, are you an illusion? Like, he doesn't believe. And he says, you're actually alive. Like, and because he has the hair. And they show his face when he finds out that she died. And he looks so sad. He's like, I heard you died on the cliffs of the northern mountains. And of course, Yona is she's like, oh my God, this man is right in front of me. And then as soon as he sees how horrified she is seeing him, his face softening and him being like, you really are Princess Yona. Like, he's like, that face. He's like, yeah, I killed your dad. This is why you're freaked out. But there's like so many emotions that Yona's going through right now. And he's like, no, you're really her because God. And so then we cut back to that little scene of them as kids. And it's so sweet because little Soo-won, he's like, I'll hold your hand until you fall asleep like the queen did, like your mother did. He's like, I'll make sure if you cry, I'll wipe the tears away so no one will see. Like him just being that protective, like big brother over her. He's like, so please smile tomorrow. And she is not smiling. She's just so distraught seeing him again after everything that's happened. Oh my gosh. But it's the most tragic thing because, especially when we find out with his attitude this episode, right? It's the most tragic thing because it seems like Soo-won and Yona are both trying to do good for their kingdom, but Soo-won had to kill King Il to take over to make change for the kingdom. But there's something else going on too, and I can't wait to find out in the manga more because I'm like, what he brought up this episode, I'm like, okay, what else are we doing? So going back to this episode starting, he asks where Hawk is. And then he's like, that's a stupid question. Because he's like, if you're safe, that means Hawk's around, right? He knows. He's like, you're safe. So I'm sure it's because he's still risking his life to protect you. So Soo-won knows. Soo-won knows that Hawk likes Yona. I'm sure he does. He at least knows that Hawk is going to risk his life to protect her. And so I'm sure... I think that Soo-won knows that Hawk likes Yona. Yona's just our oblivious girl, But God, the morning light shining out, and she's just so shell-shocked. And then he says, I came to investigate because I heard of Yan Kumji, the Lord of Awa, was conducting illegal business with another country. So this business he's been conducting with the Kai Empire has been going on since King Il. And Soo-won is just now figuring out about it. So while he's on his way to see Gunti, he'd heard about this illegal business and was going to go investigate it himself. So again, Soo-won and Yona are both seeing the injustice in the system, and Soo-won was coming to diplomatically look into it, right? But that's curious. I'm very curious now, and I'm assuming we might find out more in the manga because we're going to tie back to Kumji at the end of this episode. But I'm very curious to know now, what was Soo-won going to do? Because Kumji had all these political ties and was extremely corrupt. And so I'm like, would Soo-won have stopped him? What would the links he have what links would he have taken? Would he have arrested Kumji? Would he have reprimanded him? Like, I'm curious to know what Soo-won's plan was to deal with him. Because I'm sure Kumji would have tried to cover it up. Kumji would have tried to say, oh no, it's fine. We're not doing any illegal activity. But he knew about the human trafficking. Because Judo talks to him about it later. So I'm very curious to know what Soo-won would have done. And I'm hoping that later on in the manga we find that out. I'm like, what would his plan have been? I'm very curious about that. Because then Judo comes And so this whole thing with Judo, like he shields Yona, and Yona's like, I gotta get out of here. And he stops her and he hides her, right? And he hides her in his cloak and he tells her to be quiet and be still. She's like, let go. And it's clear he didn't want her to leave without him saying goodbye to her. Without her, at least without him talking to her. It's clear he wanted to say something to her. He didn't want her to just run off. And plus, if she'd ran off, then Judo would have saw her and chased after her and could have captured her. So he wanted her to get away. Right? He wanted her to get away. But, oh God, this is so interesting. Right? And so then Judo, they're like, Lord Soo-won. And they, of course, instantly, they're like, why'd you walk off on your own? He's like, oh, I apologize. And then they misunderstand. He's like, I'm so excited to be in a new city. And Judo's like, you're excited? He's like, is that why you're with a woman? And so they thought that Soo-won had just ran off being all excited that he went off to find a woman to go take off with him, like to one of the brothels. And they're like, you're the king. What are you doing, sir? You know better than just to go find a lady in the streets. Like they just treat it like, oh, really? Wow, you're not interested in any of the women at the castle. It's like, you're not interested in any other ladies at the castle. Interesting. And Soo-won's like, oh, yeah. Please, General. Yeah, it's so crude of you. Where you flirt with a woman is your business. But in the middle of a secret reconnaissance mission isn't the time. So secret reconnaissance mission. So they're basically trying to find out about, they were trying to investigate Koomji in secret. Okay, to figure out what was going on without him knowing. Interesting. So they're basically doing what Yona and them were doing. Yona and them beat them to the punch and Yona killed him. But they don't know that yet. He's like, do it when we get home. And they're like, General, not so loud. You'll wake up people and we'll attract attention to the king. And he's like, okay, fine. He's like, I'll send her away. And they assume that means that he's going to go do his business with this woman and then come back. And they're like, fine, we'll just wait for you. And they ask where Jan Koomji is. And they say he's missing. And that's when she sees the sword. And that's the sword from the opening, right? That's the sword from the opening. So I thought she was going to steal it, or that maybe he was going to give it to her. But, well, that's his only sword, though. Why would he give it to her? And plus, Hawk would instantly know it's Soo-won's sword. So why would he do it? And so they say last night on his way to sell slaves to the Kai Empire, he was attacked by pirates. And God, this scene, and he's like, what about the people Koomji was trying to sell? And they say they all seem to be fine. And the moment she grabs the sword, well, of course he would realize it, that pressure being put on it. He would realize she grabbed the sword. But in that moment, he grabs her hand to stop her and puts it around her wrist like he doesn't let her move. Oh my gosh, that moment. Oh my gosh. And he's like, well, that's good. That's good that the people are safe. And the look on his face, like he just seems like so apprehensive and like he's aware she wants to kill him in that moment, or at least to injure him to get away. And he's just, the look on his face. He says, it's good no one was hurt. And then he's like, I'd heard rumors of human trafficking, but I'd had trouble finding evidence. So he's saying this too for Yona to hear just as much, right? He's like, I'd heard rumors of human trafficking, but I hadn't found any evidence of it. So he couldn't just outright accuse him. He's like, I must thank the pirates. And they're like, thank them? Thank them? He's like, we'll overlook this incident. And she's like, oh. And Judo's like, well, then who will succeed Yam Kuji? And it seems like that's not what they were expecting. So I'm curious to know if Soo-won said it's apparent Soo-won's smart. So Soo-won probably has put two and two together and realized in the moment that Yona's involved with the pirates somehow. Probably. He doesn't know the details, but he's like, I'm sure Yona and Hawk are involved somehow. And that's how they stopped them, right? So he's probably thinking, we'll just thank the pirates and leave them out of this because they're probably tied to Yona. And Judo and them were kind of like, okay, well then who's going to succeed Koomji then if he's missing? And then Soo-won's like, I'll decide after we return to the capital. So is that all? He's like, let me go. And he hugs Yona to him like, can I finish my business? You know, he's lying. And Judo's like, oh, God, this is embarrassing. Fine, do whatever. Do as you please. You're so hot-headed. And then that look, Soo-won, God. Soo-won, he's so hard to read in moments like this because his eyes are in the shadows, and it's clear that he knows Yona hates him. He thinks Yona hates him because he's like, you have every right to hate me. I killed your father. Oh, in this moment, like him in the shadows, oh my God. And then the doves, the white doves flying over, like this innocent, like this moment of innocence, right? This like symbolic representation. And he's like, do you want to kill me? And then Yona's just like, and at that moment, it's like, Yona's probably thinking to herself, she's like, do I want to kill him? And he's like, of course you do. But I can't die yet. And this moment where he tells her, he's like, I don't blame you for wanting to kill me because I understand how you feel. Because it's how he felt. He felt thinking that King Il killed his father. He wanted to kill King Il. And so he knows exactly how she feels. He's like, you feel the same way I did. He's like, but I can't die yet. There's something I must do. And his eyes get so wide and the dove's flying away. I'm like, what does he need to do? What does he have? What agenda does he have? Does he need to set the kingdom back on the right track and then he can die and she can take back over? What is all of this an elaborate plan to set the kingdom back on the right track, and then if Yona kills him, then at least she can take over and the kingdom will be right? Like, what is this all a plan for? Like, who's influencing him? What is this a plan to do? What is his objective? He became king and he had to kill King Il, but why? Because all of this, he's had to betray his two best friends, the people he cares about the most. He's had to betray them to follow through this, but what's the point? And he seems like he has something yet to do before he can die, but what is it? And I like the bird motif. There's a bird motif with Soo-won. We saw in the battle with Gunti, it was a hawk. He was compared to a hawk, but here it's this dove flying off. And usually doves are like signs of innocence. So what does that mean? God. And he lets it go and she lets go of the sword. And then that moment where he's like, goodbye, Yona. And he lets her go. God. And he just, and oh, his face! He looks, if you go back to that moment where he turns to walk away from her, he puts his hand next to her face, and you can tell he cares about her. And then, but that moment, he seems so sad that he has to leave her and so torn. Like he's so heartbroken he has to leave her. And then he's caused her all this pain. And he's made her hate him. And he thinks he's made her hate him. I'm like, Soo-won, you are an enigma. You are an enigma, my dude. And I don't want to be spoiled. I want to read the manga and find out more, but God, I don't ship Yona and Soo-won. I don't. I ship Yona and Hawk, but because Hawk never left her side. But I feel so bad for Soo-won in this because it's clear he cares about her, but he has some kind of objective, some kind of mission, and he's not done with it yet. And he's convinced himself he has to focus on it. And I'm so intrigued. I'm so curious, but I feel bad for him because in that moment he thinks one of the people he cares about the most, he knows they're alive, but he knows that they want to kill him. And he knows that he can't blame them for that feeling. And then I feel bad for Yona because she just breaks down. Like, how could you not? And of course, as soon as he leaves, she breaks down. And that's when Hawk hears her. And Hawk's like looking for her, like, where is she? And he hears her crying. And him finding her. And like the shocked look on his face and him running to go help her. He's like, what's wrong? What happened? And she just can't respond. And he looks ahead to see, and he can't see Soo-won, but there's a part of me that wonders if he knows. There's a part of me that wonders if he knows that she's ran into him. Because Hawk's just like, what'd you see? And it's clear I wonder if Yona will ever tell him. I feel like Yona doesn't want to tell him because she doesn't want him to flip out. But I wonder if Hawk suspects already, right? I just get that vibe that he suspects something bad's happened. And then I like Judo's like, well, that was earlier than I thought. Like, I figured you'd at least, hang out for a while, but And Soo-won puts on the mask that nothing's wrong. He's a good actor. A lot of you, I was saying for Modao Zushi, I was comparing Soo-won with Yao. And then I forget who it was that told me, they were like, no, he's like Hwee-sang. He's an actor. And I'm like, oh, he is. He's more like Hwee-sang. He's just putting on this big act. But what's the point? I mean, we thought he killed King Il out of revenge to take over, but there's clearly more to it than that. He wants to help out the kingdom become better. But now there's more to it than that. And I don't know if what he told Yona, he's like, I can't die yet. I don't know if he told her that because he's not totally reformed the kingdom yet like he wants to. So he can't die yet, what the deal is. But, oh my gosh. And he's like, oh, please don't tease me. And Judo's like, you don't have time to play around. He says, have you forgotten why we rushed your coronation? And he's like, I haven't forgotten. So clearly there's an agenda. They rushed his coronation because he's trying to get things in motion for a reason. Something's about to go down and he's trying to get things put together. So I don't know if like the kingdom's getting ready to be attacked, what the deal is, and they were suspecting it. So that's curious. Maybe the kingdom was getting ready to be attacked by an outside force, and that's what spurred Soo-won into motion to kill King Il and take over because he knew this attack was coming and he wanted to save the kingdom. I don't know. But he's like, but it's unusual for you to chase women. Yeah. And then the guards are like, you don't even look at the women in the castle. It's like, because he's not interested in any of the women in the castle. And then they say, was she that attractive? And so here's the thing. This is why I definitely don't ship Soo-won with Yona. Because they say, was that she that attractive? And he says, I suppose she is unforgettable. He doesn't say she's more beautiful than words or she's the most gorgeous woman I ever saw. He says she's unforgettable, which is kind of you could view it romantically or you could view it platonically. Either way, but he says we should hurry back. And they're like, where to next? And he's like, I'm done making preparations. Let's return to Hiryu Castle. So he's prepared everything. Stuff's going down. He's made preparations. Okay. Whatever that involves, everything's been prepared. So now he knows that Hawk and Yona are alive. So I'm wondering how that's going to affect the plans. Interesting. So yeah. Okay. And then this next scene, I was really feeling bad for Yona because of course Keith is still hungover and they've had like 6 after parties because they're all pirates. But she goes through this spell where she's like, I'm fine. Everything's fine. And I was afraid that she says, I'm great. Everything's great. And Hawk is like, whoa, you're not great. And he catches her and everything and she spills the food on her. Like she's clearly like, she's just going through the motions, but she's clearly she's distraught. Like Yoon's making hangover food and all this. And I like that Sheena, he senses something's up too. And Sheena's method is to send Ao to go investigate. He sends the squirrel to go investigate. I think that's adorable. But yeah, I got really sad at Yona here because everyone notices that something's up, that she's not quite right. And then she's like spilling stuff all over her robes and everything. And she's so out of it that she starts to strip off the robes. And she's like, it's fine. And they're like, oh, no. And I love that the pirates are nice enough that they're so wholesome. They're like, don't strip in front of us. No. And they try to like stop her. And of course, Hawk, because Hawk is the husbando of all husbandos, gives her one of his robes. And he's like, go change in the captain's quarters. And he knows what's wrong. I'm fully convinced that Hawk understands that she's distraught because I think Hawk knows that she saw Soo-won. I think somehow he knows. I'm sure he doesn't know the context or how he was there, but he knows something bad's happened. And he may think, it might be that he thinks she's upset because she's killed someone. And he thinks that she's, thinking and stewing on that. It may be that maybe when Hawk found her, that's something. Maybe when Hawk found her, he thought that she was crying because she killed Kumji. And he was like, oh God, she's killed a man and it's all weighing down on her and that's why she's sad. Maybe that's it. Maybe Hawk's like, oh God, the pressure of taking a life is weighing on her and that's why she's, crying her eyes out. And then he doesn't want to question her because he doesn't want her to, get any worse. And then maybe during this moment where he's like, you know, giving her the robe, he's like, go on. He knows that she feels bad. And so he's like, just go let it out somewhere else and collect yourself. Maybe he doesn't suspect it's Soo-won. Maybe he just thinks she's being, you know, sad because he knows that she's killed someone and she's remorseful about it. I don't know. Interesting. But yeah, he gives her one of his robes. And yeah, she just had that short robe on underneath, like, and then she gets all blushy around him and runs away. And I think it's because, I mean, she just like, and he's like, that'll be 1,000 ren for the show. And then I like the one guy says that was an act of God. We didn't ask her for that. Act of God. Time to hear you, right? But yeah, I like that Hawk's looking out for her, and he's not asking her specifically what's wrong. He's letting her sort it out, but he clearly knows that she's affected. And it could be that he just thinks she's affected by the fact that she's killed somebody, not that she's actually saw Soo-won. And then, yeah, and it was just getting good. Jae-ha. And then, yeah, I love Hawk's like, no. Wow. And I love Hawk's like narrowed eyes. He's like, stop it. I love Hawk and Jae-ha are more similar than they seem, but... And then Jae-ha's like, what's wrong with her? Like, and of course he asks Hawk because he knows that Hawk knows the answer. He's like, what's wrong with her? And Hawk's like, nothing. And he's like, oh? He's like, that's quite a blade you have. People will be shocked to see you walking around town with it. Like, he's hid it this whole time. He hasn't used the blade because he didn't want to stand out, right? He's like, until now I've avoided carrying it in town. Uh-huh. And he's like, I've been complacent lately. And that look on his face, that look of Hawk, it's like the animation is unlike anything we've seen on him before. Like, he looks, I need to be careful. Like, that look on his face, like, what is that animation? Why does his face looks so much narrower and scarier? And so basically he's like, I got complacent. I didn't carry my weapon. I let Yona just walk around on her own. And what happens? I leave her for 3 hours and then she sobs her eyes out and now she's all messed up. So he's like, I can't do that anymore. Got to carry around my glaive and be on alert. And Jae-ha's like, sorry I asked. That's rich. You were fighting until morning and you say you're complacent. He's like, I'm curious to know who you're staring at so intently. So he's like, whoever made Yona feel the way that she just did, he's like, I'll cut him to pieces, and it's Soo-won. The question is, does he know it or not? And Jae-ha is like, either way, what a sorrowful bloodlust. He's like, you're just a mess, Hawk. It's like, look at you. What sorrowful bloodlust. He's like that bloodlust. He's like, you're not happy to be that way. Right? And then, yeah, Sheena sees Yona running off with the robes and everything. And I like that he's like, go. He's like, go, Al. Go check it out. And yeah. And then, of course, Al's like chewing on the little sash and everything. But it's so sad. And I like that Yona puts herself together. And then she has the hairpin, of course. And then I was wanting to see if she would chuck it or what she would do with the hairpin. But she just reminisces on what Soo-won said and how he complimented her hair and said it looked like the sky at dawn. Right? And then, yeah. And then she just reminisces about seeing him and how he stopped her and says he still has to do something. And she realizes the same thing too. She's like, just like you, I have stuff to do as well. Like, we both have a mission. And the question is, are those missions going to, like, how are those paths going to intersect in the future? What are they going to do? I don't know. It's all up in the air, but a lot's happened since I left. And he's like, it sure has. And then he's just sitting, like, she was so dazed and, like, not even paying attention that Hawk's like, you're just now realizing I'm here. And then, yeah, you're everywhere, Hawk. And he's like, I have to be because you're making me nervous. He's like, and I love that. She's like, you're everywhere, Hawk. And he says, everywhere you are. He's like, this morning I let you out of my sight. But since I'm your bodyguard, I'll stick annoyingly close to you. He's like, I can't quit being your bodyguard yet. Not done yet, right? Still have to watch over you. If you need anything, call me. He's like, I'm here for you, basically. He's saying, I'm here no matter what. And I love that, where she says, yeah. And then she says, I'm leaving Awa. I'm going on. She's like, I'm taking off. And I love that she grabs his sleeve and she's like, come with me. She's like, I don't want you to leave my side. I can't do this alone. And he's like, you got it. Oh, I love that moment of them together. She's like, I need you. And of course, Kija and Sheeta and Yoon are like, we're coming too. And she's like, they're like, how could you leave without us? We're not going to leave you alone. And they're like, we're your faithful dragons. We're going to follow you no matter where you go. You can't go without us. I love Kija. And Kija's just like, on your command. He like brings Sheena in and Sheena's like, mm-hmm. And Hawk's like, I got this. But Hawk is fighting it less and less. Hawk is denying that he wants them there less and less because he's like, okay, you guys are fine. You can come. It's okay. And then she's like, I'm leaving Awa. We still got to find the other dragon. We still got to go. And I like that she says, will you come with me? Like she just invites them. She never forces them. She just says, will you come on? Like her and Soo-won are not that different, but it's sad because their goals, they're not that different. And it seems like their goals are similar, but the circumstances in which they're trying to meet those goals have driven them apart. And it's so sad, right? Because you think that under different circumstances, they'd all work together and be able to have this, but that's not what we've got so far. So it's so sad. And I like in this moment that Hawk, even though he clearly can drink more, he's just sitting there with the little thing because he doesn't want to get hungover and miss her out again, right? Mm-hmm. And I love that Kija's, still has the tiniest cup and he's still drunk off the tiniest cup and all the girls are like, marry us. And he's like, I couldn't do that. I can't do that. Marry you, no. And they're like, oh, he's so cute. And then Sheena's just consumed with eating. I love that Kija's like, I've got a duty to carry. I can't marry someone settle down yet. And then, of course, Jae-ha's off by himself playing his beautiful instrument. And Yona joins him. Mm-hmm. And it's the weirdest thing because Jae-ha has been in denial about the blood this entire time. And I love that Yona tries to play the instrument and she's terrible. Can relate. I can't play a musical instrument to save my life. He's like, and she's like, well, I can play the harp and dance a little. He's like, harp and dance, huh? So you really are a girl. Mm-hmm. And I love the idea that Jae-ha, he's still, his tune is changing a little bit. He's like, you really are a girl. You're small and steady and a powerless pain in the butt. He's like, why? And she's like, were you insulting me? And he's like, you also came all this way just to look for me. You're an enormous nuisance. And she's like, it's fine. She's like, I'm not going to push you to come with me anymore. I just want to see you off. And I love that she's like, I'm not going to push you to come with me. And it's almost like she's saying that, but then she like slowly gets up and like she's teasingly walking away. She's like, goodbye. And I love that he grabs her. And I love that he grabs her and he's like, damn it. Because Jae-ha knows how the blood works. And I think that at this point, Jae-ha has accepted that he's like, well, the blood's making me come with you, but I'm not going to turn it down because I kind of maybe like you, okay. She's grown on him. I love this. I love it. He's like, Yona's like, I don't understand you, Jae-ha. And he's like, why? I'm a very straightforward person. I don't beat around the bush. He's like, I'd like to spend the night of a party with a cute girl. Mm-hmm. And he says that, but then he goes back and plays for the pirates. So he spends the night with her for the most part, and then he lulls them all to sleep because he wants them to sleep. But then the sixth after party. And okay, so he wanted to spend the night with her, but she's already out. So he's trying to knock them all out too. And I love this. I love that they're like, if we go to sleep, then when we wake up in the morning, you'll be gone. And Jae-ha's like, damn it. He's like, well, I don't want to admit it, but... And he's like, I don't take care of drunks, Maya. He's like, the dream will end if we go to sleep. We won't be pirates anymore. And he's like, well, sure, you don't have to be pirates, but you can still fish and be on the seas. Like, you just won't be committing, illegal acts. But he's like, we won't be together with you. Oh, and it's so sweet. And you could tell that Jae-ha, he loves his, like, found family and Gigan. And he's like, but you're leaving. And you're leaving with Owl with the girl and her friends. And they all know it. And Jae-ha knows it. And then he's like, lullaby, put you all asleep. But this scene's so sweet. And they're like, we'll kill you. Droopy eyes. I love that's his nickname. He's like, I really do love you guys. I love this. I love how soft his expression is. Aww. And it's kind of like, it's funny because it's almost like he followed the pirates out of love and not obligation necessarily. He wasn't forced to join the pirates, but he loved them all. And so he stuck with them because he really had this found family. But now that it's disbanding, he's going off to another one. And I love this conversation with Gigan. I love that we get the fact of his background. And he says, my beauty, may I join you? And she's like, go away, you lanky brat. I love this. He's like, you'd be my type of woman if you were 50 years younger. And she's like, oh my God, I hate you, kid. You're my ideal woman. But honestly, Yona is a lot like Gigan. Yona is a lot like Gigan, especially when Jae-ha and her teasing back and forth. Yona's a lot like Gigan, so I can see why Jae-ha likes her, because Yona reminds him of Gigan, right? And she's like, you're running off with another woman. And he's like, oh, you're jealous. And I like that Gigan says, do you understand who she is? Mm-hmm. That if she's the king, right? The one that's inherited Hiryu, that she's the red dragon. Gigan's like, you do understand what going with her means. This is not going to be easy. It's going to be hard, right? Following her won't be easy. And there's going to be a lot of hardships. And she's like, is this the dragon's destiny? She's like, is this your decision to follow her? Or is this the blood talking? And I like that Jae-ha says, I don't know at this point. He says, but it seems I just can't stand it when she's out of my sight. And the sad thing is that that's probably the blood talking. That's probably the blood saying that he needs to be near her. But Jae-ha's warmed up to it, right? Indeed, even though she's powerless, she's unreliable. She cries as she moves forward, but there's a brilliance in her that consumes him. Mm-hmm. He's like, I shouldn't want to follow this brat. She's powerless, but damn it, the dragon blood makes me want to follow her and makes that brilliance shine through. And he admits, he's like, the way she shot that arrow roused something inside of me. Like, it roused something inside of a lot of people. Mainly you and Hawk. But you got competition, bud. I think Hawk would win out. I was sort of jealous that she shot Kumji instead of me. So that's interesting. So I thought when he said that in the episode, I thought that when he said that he meant that she shot Kumji instead of him shooting Kumji, but she just has that power. And I love that Gigan said you should have died. You should have died with him. You're lucky to be alive. And she's like, get out of here, you pervert. Mm-hmm. And she takes the sake with her. He's like, you're no fun. He's like, won't you even tell me that I'll always have a home here? He's like, aren't you going to tell me that I can come back anytime I want? And I love that Gigan smiles and says, if that's what you want, you'll need to do better. You'll need to do a better job of wooing me, you snot-nosed brat. And we cut back to when he first met her and that he fell out of the sky and he's like a little preteen. And she's like, I'll let you stay if you can prove your worth, you foolish brat. And she's like, you're going to have to learn how to woo a woman. And that's so funny because now you see him as like this scrawny ruffian. And then you see him with her. And it's clear that she has rubbed off on him. Like his finesse, his like charm and everything has been like cultivated by Gigan herself. So that's so good. And it's like she's had such a powerful influence on Jae-ha. And it's like, okay, what is Yona's influence on him going to be? That's so fascinating. I love this. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah. And then the next day, they're all together. And I love this farewell scene. It reminded me a lot of Spirited Away. It reminded me of Spirited Away where they're all leaving. I like that Sheena doesn't really say goodbye to the pirates, but Sheena's like super introverted and quiet. And he doesn't really, if you think about it, Sheena doesn't really connect with anybody because he's never connected with anybody from his village. So he just doesn't easily make friends. He's literally just married. He's literally just friends, not married. Friends with Kija and the others that are traveling together. He's not married to anybody. He's not really super close with anybody there in the village, you know? And then I like that Yona's looking around trying to find Jae-ha and she doesn't see him. And I'm sure she thinks that he's not coming with them. And she's just like, oh, maybe he didn't want to see us off because it would be too hard. And she's like, Jae-ha's missing. I wanted to talk to him and thank him. And then I like that, again, his nickname is Droopy Eyes, and Hawk's like, who cares about that droopy-eyed dragon? And she's like, I care. I can't leave like this. And Gigan's like, Jae-ha, well, if you ever come back, you'll see him. I like that Gigan doesn't want to give away that he's following them, because she knows Jae-ha would be mad if she gave that away. And Yona's like, okay, well, if I come back, I guess I'll find him. And I like that Gigan's like, if you ever need a boat, I'll get you one. Don't worry. And it's so nice. And yeah, I like the detail of that Gigan point out, because I've noticed this whole episode that Yona's face is still scratched up and bruised and swollen. And Gigan notes that. She's like, your face is still swollen. You okay? And it's from her crying, right? From her crying, but also from the battle. So that's so sad that Yona's still suffering from that. And Yona's like, it's okay. I'm fine. I'll make it. And then Gigan, you're not the frail little girl you used to be. And Yona's like, frail? And this is interesting. Gigan says you can't even clean, wash clothes, or cook properly. So it's like, that's part of being a woman. You need to learn these things. So it's kind of a weird angle that you have Gigan, this boss. And then she's like, yeah, you need to know how to defend yourself and fight, but you also need to cook and clean and know how to take care of yourself. Basically, you know how part of being a woman is you need to know how to take care of yourself. And that includes cleaning and washing your clothes and cooking your food. You need to know how to take care of yourself and not have to rely on others. That's what she's saying, because it can come across seeing a little old-fashioned, but Gigan's such like a forward boss. She's like, no, you need to know how to take care of yourself. Don't rely on these pirates. They ain't going to do the job for you. And I love that as she says that, she takes the puff of smoke and says, no one wants to marry a girl who's nothing but reckless. Like Gigan would know, right? She's like, nobody's going to marry you if you're reckless. And I love that the counter to that is, Yona's like, it's none of your business. Quit talking about who I'm going to marry. And I love the Hawk says, it's not a problem. Just find a husband to wash your clothes while you cut grasses in the mountains. I love the Hawk's like, if you just find a husband that's going to do the work for you, like myself, then you'll be fine, right? I love it. I love it. And Yona's just so flustered. She's like, you shut up, Hawk. Don't butt in on this. And then the pirates are like, Miss and Awa, you only need to be able to cook fish, right? And they're like, or serve it raw. And they're like, if you can't find a husband, come marry me. And she's like, I'm not marrying any of you. And they just laugh because they know it's Hawk. She's like, you're all so rude. And then I love that Gigan gives her the Sinjiso. She gives her the root, the herb that she got, and gave her the head pats. And she's like, you deserve this. Don't catch a cold. Take care of yourself. And Gigan's been such like a mom figure, and they even comment about it, but she's been such like a maternal figure to her. And Yona says, thank you for everything. And in that moment, Sheena looks over to the side, and you think that Sheena is watching them leave, and like that's his cue to get up and follow them. But I think Sheena also noticed that Jae-ha was following them too. And then he's like, oh, the green dragon's with us. Cool, we can go now. But I love that she runs back. And it's very Spirited Away, like them all saying bye. It's like them saying bye to Chihiro. And then she turns around and cries and goes back and hugs Gigan. It's so sweet. It's so cute. It reminds me a lot of Kija when he left his village. Because Kija, he had to say goodbye and hug the grandma. It reminds me of that. It reminds me of Kija hug the grandma. That's so sweet. Aww. And all the pirates start crying. Like everybody's just so tearful about it because Yona's leaving them. And then, yeah, they're gone. And then they say it's time to fish. And so then I like the village people were like, okay, the village people say that girl wasn't one of the pirates. Oh, she was too cute to be a pirate, of course. And then Yuri says, she may look cute, but she's stronger than your average soldier. She's the one who killed Kumji. She shot Kumji. And the villagers are like, no way, she did? And so here's the thing. Yuri's like, it was so cool. And they're like, that girl did it, huh? And they're like, what are you talking about? They're going to spread the word that the red-haired girl killed Kumji. That's going to get back to Soo-won. And then what is Soo-won going to have to do with that information? So as far as they knew, Soo-won and the others knew, Kumji was just taken out. But it could be coming back that Yona killed him. And then Soo-won's going to be like, are the people of Awa going to like want some kind of reprimanding of Yona for killing the guy? Are they gonna like praise her? Like, what's that gonna do? But I just have a feeling, the Fire Tribe or somebody's gonna take issue with it and be like, well, she murdered like one of our, leaders of our villages. We gotta do something. Or Gunti's gonna take issue with it, something. And demand justice or something like that, because he seems like a guy that is very black and white like that. So I don't know, but I just have a feeling that information is going to spread, that she's the girl that killed Kumji. Or maybe it's going to be like a Robin Hood scenario, and they're going to be like, she freed the people of Awa, and that's going to get back to Soo-won. So it's going to be interesting what that bit of information leaking out into the town is going to do in the long run. That's what's going to be interesting. But our crew is taken off, and Yona's so sad. She's crying because she didn't get to see Jae-ha. And of course, Yoon and Kija, they're crying because she's crying, and Sheena's like, I don't understand. Hawk is like, you're the one crying the most, White Snake. I like that Hawk and Sheena are like, you guys are ridiculous. And of course, Sheena doesn't say anything because he's like, well, Jae-ha's with us. Why are you guys crying? What's the deal? And then, of course, that's when they all realize. And, Kija says, I thought he joined us, because Sheena said it. Yeah. And Sheena, like, cuts down the tree, and of course, Jae-ha he's been following up in the trees, like bouncing around, chasing after them. It's so cute. I love it. And then Sheena's like, the green dragon was always near us. And he's like, well, I didn't have anything else to do, so, I thought traveling might not be a bad idea. It's adorable. I love it. He's like, but seeing you in tears while looking for me was unbearably exciting. When he said unbearably exciting, so here I am. And Hawk's like, I'm going to kill you, you pervert. I love it. I love that Hawk is like, has the glaive ready. Yep, I see you're still a pervert. And then Yoon's like, he reminds me of you, Thunderbeast. It's like, nah, they're very similar, but... And then so Yona's like, but you said you didn't want to be bound by the laws of the four dragons. And he's like, this isn't about the four dragons. I'll continue to pursue the path I choose for myself, as I always have. And I like that. He's like, I'm going to keep doing what I want. And what I want is to follow you. So it's still accordance with my aesthetic. I'm still the master of my domain. I'm just, going along with you because, the blood might have something to do with it, but I'm still choosing it. I like that. I just can't leave you now. Mm-hmm. And I love that he reaches out his hand and he takes it. He's like, take me with you, Yona. Aww. And then that's when he gets hit by the glaive. I like Hawk's like, okay, touching moment, bye. And don't get ahead of yourself. And then I like that Yoon's like, that's right. Only he's like, you're not just traveling with Yona, you're traveling with us. So you have to acknowledge us too. Mm-hmm. And Sheena's like, yep. And Kija's like, yeah, that's right. We value etiquette. Green dragon. Oh, I love that. He's like, you gotta behave and treat us all equally. Don't just hang around Yona. And then I like that he formally introduces himself. And there's the green dragon behind him. He's like, my name is Jae-ha. I'm a beautiful monster with a dragon in my right leg. And so he's like, fine, I've accepted that I'm a dragon. And I'm going to join you all. I love it. I love it. So yeah, we've got one episode left of the anime. And then we're to the manga. Crazy talk. Crazy talk. Oh my gosh. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about all of this. I'm very curious to see what ends up happening. But yeah, so next week's going to be episode 24. I'm excited about it. And then after episode 24, I'll be the following week. I will be recapping. I'll basically talk about volumes 1 through 8. So far in the first 5 volumes that I've read, it's exactly like the anime. So there's not been much to recap. Just like little things I've put on Twitter, like little side notes. I like that the mangaka makes little side notes as she goes about the characters, and that she draws like little sketches of them. It's really cute. I've posted some like screenshots of certain chapter title pages that are really cool that I like. There's one of Yona with Sheena's mask, an owl's mask, that's really cool. But yeah, I'll be recapping volumes 1 through 8, and then we'll react to volume 9 the week after next. So I'm excited, but I'm so curious if we're going to finally see the Yellow Dragon next week. They've hinted at him this entire series, and they've left him to the last episode. Of course, right? What a tease. So I'm curious what that's going to be like. But yeah, next week's going to be the season finale, the series finale of the anime, and then the following week we're going to start off with the manga. I'm excited. I'm at least going to read volume 6 next week, and depending on what volume 7 looks like, I might get to it as well. But we shall see, y'all. So I am excited. This episode was great. This episode went a lot better than I thought it was going to go in terms of Soo-won. So much mystery being set up. So much like conflict with Soo-won and how he's so similar to Yona. But they're like, I can't wait for the manga. So I'm curious to know your thoughts down below. Please no spoilers. But yeah, next week we'll do episode 24. In the meantime, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, I'll be back next week with episode 24 of Yona of the Dawn. Bye.